Hi everybody, I'm Roxy Monroe with KidLit TV, and we're here at TLA in Austin, Texas. And by the way, we have a great author with us. We just saw a preview, I will add though, by Scholastic of their new fall line, which looked absolutely fabulous. However, we're talking now with, you better pronounce your entire name for me.
Aron Nels Steinke.
No, I think he mispronounced it. I think that's right. Now, you are doing a series, Mr. Wolf's Class. And could there be any connection with Mr. Wolf's class and you being a teacher?
I am 99% Mr. Wolf. So I teach elementary school. I teach 4th and 5th grade. And I've been making comics about my teaching experience. Before Mr. Wolf's class even, I did a comic strip called Mr. Wolf. And I would do a comic strip based on little funny things that would happen in the classroom. And around the time I was doing those strips, I had an idea that maybe this would be good for kids and make a graphic novel series for them. So that's how Mr. Wolf's class started.
But those are the ideas, and you are also, though, an artist and a cartoonist. Did you go to art school or educate? I mean, where did you start?
So I've been drawing pretty much my whole life, but I did go to school for animation. I had the animation bug when I was around 19 years old. I saw a movie called Princess Mononoke by Hayao Miyazaki. And that movie made me want to be an animator and tell stories through pictures. And so I went to school in Canada, the Vancouver Film School, to do hand-drawn animation. And after that, long story short, I discovered comics, and comics is basically kind of a movie you can make all by yourself. And through that, I began to tell my own stories, and now I have my series, Mr. Wolf's Class.
Well, by the way, are you still teaching?
I am. I teach 4th and 5th grade in Portland, Oregon.
Cool. And then, so how many books have you published?
Books for kids, I think I have about 5 or 6 books for kids.
When you say for kids, does that mean you have other books?
Well, the first comics I was making were more adult autobiographical comics. And once I started teaching, I realized I should probably start catering toward students. And I enjoyed that feedback, too, that I got from my students. And, yeah.
So is this for the same grade that, 4th and 5th grades?
So it's a middle grade graphic novel, and kindergarten through 6th grade I think would enjoy it, but it's definitely really good for those 2nd, 3rd grade starting to reading independently, and yeah. So
is there a main character, and do the characters, if you have children or something, do they show up in the next book?
Ooh, that's a good question. So there's no real main character in Mr. Wolf's Class. I think of it more of as an ensemble, and maybe there's a shift of focus. So a student might be the focus of the story for one chapter, and then it shifts focus to another student, and how they're tangentially related. And each book will have other students who kind of come in and out of focus and are kind of more.
You have a teacher in there, don't you, somewhere?
Mr. Wolf is kind of the glue in the background and sometimes in the front that binds everything together. They all share the experience of being in Mr. Wolf's class.
Do we have a physical description of Mr. Wolf? Does he have glasses?
Behind me, we've got Mr. Wolf, and he does wear glasses.
Oh, he's a real wolf.
He is an anthropomorphic wolf. He wears a tie, so I get to pretend that I get to dress myself up. I started drawing Mr. Wolf based on me. But the fun thing was that even though it was me, I could start to change myself. I could start to fictionalize myself. So I'm not a wolf. Mr. Wolf is a wolf, but he also wears a tie. He has glasses. I don't have either. And It was a good way for me to start to play with things that were maybe real and start to fictionalize this world that I created.
Now, a wolf could be scary, and don't forget Little Red Riding Hood. However, apparently this Mr. Wolf, I mean, he looks very nice and accessible to me.
So yeah, this Mr. Wolf, he is a relatively new teacher. Maybe it's a second or third year teaching. It's still a little new though, so it's still a little challenging. That's hence the little sweat drop on Mr. Wolf's head. The students can be a little rambunctious, and Mr. Wolf is navigating that world of being an authoritative teacher, being kind and yet also firm at the same time. And I want it to be a loving environment for kids to enter into. So Mr. Wolf is not a buffoonish teacher, and he is also not the perfect, amazing all-star teacher. He does have some flaws.
He's flawed.
As we all do.
So I was going to ask you about research for this book, but you happen to be a fourth and fifth grade teacher, so your research is like really pretty obvious, right?
I think so. The hard part is that I've taught in many different schools, and those schools all kind of turned into the school in Mr. Wolf's class, Hazelwood Elementary School. And so the research that I have to do when I'm making these books is I have to remember what I drew before. I have to remember the layout of the school. I haven't made a comprehensive map of the school yet. I think that's due, because sometimes I get lost in which classroom is located where, and that's the kind of research I have to do.
Yeah, you should have a kind of a template for the school. Now, you brought something with you I think people will be super interested in. I'm an artist too, and I have never filled a sketchbook like this. So can you show us and tell us why they're in this book and what they lead to, or are they just for fun?
Yeah, Roxy. So cartoonists often get asked what comes first, the drawings or the writing. And for me and most cartoonists, I think the answer is both at the same time. But cartooning is a primarily visual language. Graphic novels are mostly visual. But after I've created the world of Mr. Wolf's class, it's become, I write the scripts first. So I do writing first. And after I write the whole book, I draw the whole book, and I use a ballpoint pen, and I make little sketches.
Oh, wow.
And I basically draw the whole book very quickly. Quickly meaning it takes a couple months. But each page and each panel, there's not a lot of detail. I kind of rough out the shapes, and I rough out what I want the characters to say. But as you can see, I do scribble, and I do cross out things. And I make a lot of revisions and edits as I go.
So you work the whole thing out in this kind of rough way. Would you call these storyboards?
I would call them layouts, but it's very similar to storyboarding. Storyboarding is, I would say, primarily visual for the intent of making a motion picture out of it, or a commercial, or a TV show. And I add the word balloons that might not be in a storyboard.
So this is the first step after you write it. And do you work on the computer, or do you actually paint these?
So after I sketch out the book and I send it to my editor, and we make decisions to change things, we cut things out, add things in, then I redraw the whole book in pencil, basically using my rough drawings as a template. Sometimes I'll scan them in and reprint them onto nice paper and in a very light blue color, and then I'll draw on top of them. And then I use a nice pen, and I go over my lines. We call it inking. After I ink my artwork, I then scan and I color in Photoshop. So I do use flat Photoshop colors to finish the book.
Wow, that's so interesting. So now, what inspired you? So it's hard to get a book published. So you're a teacher and you've got these ideas and you're a cartoonist. What was the step in which you went from fantasizing about it and wanting to do it and actually getting an editor and a publisher?
Oh, that's a great question. So I've been wanting to make children's books and make picture books and comics I've been working on it for roughly 15 plus years. Out of school for animation, I discovered the love for comics and a love for children's books. I got my first publishing contract on the very year I also graduated from teaching college.
Wow, that's early.
Well, I was 28. I can't remember how old I was at this moment, but I was 28, 29, and going back to school for teaching was kind of I came to that a little later, and I had been working on comics, and things weren't really financially stable, so I decided to become a teacher. And then Blue Apple Books gave me a contract to do my first children's book called The Super Crazy Cat Dance. And I've been teaching and publishing at the same time ever since for the past almost 10 years.
That's wonderful. So, and what are you working on now?
So there is a third Mr. Wolf's class. It's called Lucky Stars, and it comes out this summer. September 3rd is when it comes out. I'm really excited for that one. It's 16 pages longer than the others. I put everything into it. I think it's a pretty special book. After that, I'm not sure. I would like to make more Mr. Wolf's class. I also have other ideas, but I probably shouldn't reveal any of those because it's just too early, and I don't have any formal plans to actually publish them. Teaching is keeping me pretty busy, and a graphic novel takes me a year to write and complete.
So if you could meet any, we are all like standing on the shoulders of giants before us. If there was any cartoonist, illustrator, or author, dead or alive, that you could meet, who would it be and why?
Oh, wow. I've had the fortunate opportunity to meet a lot of people that I have been influenced by. I mean, Raina Telgemeier is a big influence, and also doing great things for kids comics, and I've had the opportunity of meeting her, and I would like to say, oh gosh, who's coming to mind is, obviously Hayao Miyazaki. So Miyazaki had been my hero for many years for the movies that they made at Studio Ghibli, and he was also a cartoonist. So he did his first Studio Ghibli film was called Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, which was a manga that he created before and after that film. And he's an amazing cartoonist, and I would love to meet him. He's still around, and he's still working.
Send him your email.
I wish.
So we're going to wrap it up. Have you had a good time here at the TLA?
Yeah, I've had a great time at TLA. This is my first time, second time in Austin. And the librarians here are really amazing, and everybody who's been from Scholastic to help support this my trip here have been really helpful, and meeting people like you, Roxy, has been making this trip very worthwhile.
Well,
so thank you.
Thank KidLit TV, but TLA is the biggest state association, and I was told when I first came here that they treat children's book authors like rock stars, and they do treat us well, don't they?
Yes, I just did a signing, and there was a line that went around, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you very much, and let's wave goodbye. Bye-bye, guys.